يضيق خلقك. الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك. هدي وارتاح ثابر واطمح من حقك. بس بلاش العين، لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك. الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك. هدي وارتاح ثابر واطمح من حقك. بس بلاش.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this special edition of Community Showcase right here on ITV. Islamic Relief is an independent humanitarian and development organization that has been serving humanity for 32 years. With an active presence in over 40 countries across the globe, Islamic Relief has been striving to make the world a better and fairer place for the 3 billion people still living in poverty. The Relief and Development NGO will be hosting a pledge on Saturday, the 2nd of July, corresponding to the 27th night of Ramadan, which could be Laylatul Qadr, the night of power. They are aiming to raise much-needed funds for countries in conflict like Syria, Palestine and Yemen. Before we get to the pledge, let's focus on some of Islamic Relief's activities this Ramadan. Joining us in studio now is Razan Dadabai, Orphan Support Officer at Islamic Relief. Assalamu alaikum Razan, welcome to the studio.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Tell me about some of the projects and programs that Islamic Relief has been running during Ramadan.
This Ramadan we've been focusing on food distributions. We've had various food distributions in different areas in Cape Town. We've also had our Orphans Iftar for the families that we support on our one-to-one program. And we have just recently launched Project Rahma. And Project Rahma is a project where basically we go into impoverished communities and we feed people.
There's a lot that goes on at Islamic Relief, and people sometimes hear the word Islamic Relief worldwide and they think that some of this money here will be taken out of the country and our people won't be looked after, and some people feel that, look, our money has to help our communities first. There's orphans here, there's hunger here, there's poverty here. What exactly does your programs entail? Do you just have programs randomly on the small scale, or are those programs big and do they continue throughout the year?
We do have one program in South Africa that is very big, and that is our Orphans One-to-One program. We support families, orphan families, because when we look at the term orphan, we look at the Islamic definition of an orphan. So a child whose father has passed away. In 40% of the children that we sponsor, we support, both parents have passed away and they are living with family. And we support these families on a monthly basis with food hampers. We support them with school stationery, school uniforms, school bags, psychosocial support. We support them if in the event that they are needing shelter, it is something, and we are able to, then we do support them with shelter as well. So that's one of our most important programs.
And more winter specific and Ramadan specific, because we know right now is a challenge for relief organizations, specifically the Muslim-based and the Muslim-run ones, because it is a situation where it's winter, there's flooding, people are sitting without homes, there's fires happening, and the fitra parcels have to carry on. People must have iftar, kids must have iftar and suhoor and eat things and so on. The Ramadan projects that you are doing and the Ramadan programs that you are doing, list that for us and give us the details about specifically the Orphans Iftar that was held a few weeks ago.
We held an Orphans Iftar because normally our orphans are invited to different iftars that are held throughout Cape Town. But never do we actually have an iftar where we invite the entire family. So what we decided was that we would invite the children as well as their guardians and any other anybody else living in the household. So the entire household was invited to our iftar, and we also invited our staff because and our staff families, because there's very few of us that have an opportunity to work in the field and meet with the families that we support. So it was, we gave the rest of our staff an opportunity to come and interact with the families so that they know or they meet the people that they are helping, they meet the people that we are supporting. Some of the Ramadan activities that we've been doing food distributions. But our food distributions for our Ramadan hampers started before Ramadan, so that we could ensure that people had something to start the first of Ramadan with.
So the Ramadan project is actually something that runs from before Ramadan already. Whilst we are before Ramadan, for lack of a better term, what else happens throughout the year on the ground with regards to Islamic Relief South Africa?
With our Orphans One-to-One program, we have the families get visited a minimum of once a month. We go and we do a home visit so we can see how we can support the family better. We also do monthly distributions. We currently have grief and loss counseling that is happening on a weekly basis. We also have Project Rahma, which was launched last week. We go also on a weekly basis. We go into the communities, and we've started off with 100-liter pot of soup, and Alhamdulillah, this week we've increased it to 160 liters of soup that we go in, and it doesn't seem like much, because I can promise you within 30 minutes the soup is gone. But inshallah, we are trying to reach more and more people. We are trying to feed more and more people.
So there's a definite need for people to assist and contribute towards Islamic relief, because there's a lot they do throughout the year. What are some of the responses, or give us one emotional kind of feeling that you have when you assist somebody out there in the field that is in need?
I think one of the most rewarding things for us as field workers is obviously the du'as that you get. I was on a distribution before Ramadan, and there was a very old lady, I think, okay, not very old, 76-year-old lady. And she came to us and she said, you are an answer to my dua, because I didn't know what I was going to do for Ramadan. So she made a very beautiful dua for all of us and the entire organization. And I think that is, they always say that humanitarian work is rewarding. And I always wondered, because most of the time you see a lot of suffering. So when she came and she made that dua for us, that was one of the most rewarding things. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, and inshallah, we hope that everybody that contributes to Islamic Relief will be able to share in that reward, inshallah. Razan, thank you very much, and shukran for joining us.
Fine.
Recently, Islamic Relief visited the Cape Town community of Chatsworth on the West Coast, and Shanaz Ibrahim, the Islamic Relief journalist and communications manager, compiled this report on the Operation Open Heart South Africa Fitra run that took place.
Operation Open Heart South Africa teamed up with Islamic Relief to distribute Fitra hampers to the impoverished community of Chatsworth on the West Coast. Sheikh Amin Yunus from Masjid al-Nabawi in Chatsworth opened the day's proceedings with a short dua and welcome address.
يا راحم المساكين يا راحم المساكين يا راحم المساكين يا واحد الأحد يا فرد الصمد يا الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. I would like to welcome you all the people from Cape Town, that you have to feel home and feel safe, inshallah. You are here, we'll do the best we can, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Operation Open Heart is a Fitra program operated by the Sharia compliant Bikers fraternity in association with Mowbray Masjid and in conjunction with Islamic Relief South Africa. We say shukran to the Almighty for allowing us to manage the 6th and most successful edition of this program. We thank all persons involved with the planning, management, transport, packaging, supervising, checking, counting and accounting, loading and offloading, communications, logistics, escorting and distribution and other aspects of the operation. Ons sê 'n groot ramakassie vir al die bikers en hulle eggenote, familielede en vriende en vriendinne, kinders en kleinkinders en spectators en Mowbray Masjid Committee vir hulle vrywillige steun en bydrae. We cherish the memory and make dua for the founding members of this program, namely Buta Ahmed and Sheikh Brown. May the Almighty grant them Jannatul Firdaus. Amin, inshallah.
Operation Open Hearts is an initiative started in 2010 by a group of avid motorcyclists and philanthropists. The initiative focuses on reaching out and making a difference in the lives of the less fortunate, particularly during the holy month of Ramadan.
We also thank all of you for coming and for Islamic Relief for allowing us to do this distribution. So, in conclusion, our motto is to live simply so that others can simply live. Also, one of the sayings that our late friend Mr. Brown used to install. So I want to add something to it as well. In his last part of his life, he used to echo these following words, you see, that don't be good to those who are only good to you. Don't only be good to those who are only good to you. So what we try to do is to spread the word that we as bikers are fun-loving, and we care about our fellow human beings, and this is why we come together every year to do this wonderful fitra run. So a big thank you to all of you.
More than 100 families were identified as part of the distribution process in Chatsworth. Auntie Jainab Gallo and her family have been living in the area for more than 20 years. As a retired seamstress, she and her family are living off her monthly pension.
We moved in here about 20 years ago, and at that stage the place was very rural at that time. And but alhamdulillah, with the qudrat of Allah, we acquired our electricity, which came about 8 months after we moved in, and water about a year after that. And now it's just the roads that need to be seen to. My children went to school in Atlantis because there was only Afrikaans schools here and they were English, so they went to Atlantis. And alhamdulillah, they not matriculated, but they left school from Atlantis. But the youngsters that's going now, they accommodating the children with English right here in Chatsworth, so they will probably be using that. And the only awkward thing is if you don't have transport, you have to make use of public transport, which is not very regular. I really want to shukr them from the bottom of my heart, because it is something that is really thankful for. And may Allah grant them, if they are people who have a little money to spend, may Allah grant them their reward in the akhirah, inshallah. Because I mean, it does fill a need. So may Allah reward each and everyone that had to do with us, to reward them duly, inshallah.
Islamic Relief would like to sincerely thank each and every member of the Motorcycling Club and the extended networks for their generosity. For Islamic Relief, reporting from Chatsworth on the West Coast, I'm Shanaz Ibrahim.
You've been watching a special report compiled by Shanaz Ibrahim, Communications Manager and Journalist at Islamic Relief. The report was about a visit that took place last week on the Cape West Coast with Operation Open Heart South Africa. Coming up next, we speak to the HOD for Funds and Communications, Fazlan Fransman. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to this special edition of Community Showcase. Before the break, we heard about some of the good work Islamic Relief South Africa has been doing during this holy month of Ramadan. Another major fundraising initiative which Islamic Relief has been running this month are the TV pledges right here on channel 347 ITV. The organization is scheduled to host its pledge on the 2nd of July, which corresponds to the 27th night of Ramadan, Laylatul Qadr, or one of the odd nights of the last 10 days of Ramadan. To tell us more about the pledge and what the funding is used for is Fazlan Fransman. She is the HOD for Communications and Fundraising. Fazlan, Assalamu alaikum and shukran for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam.
It's a busy time for Islamic Relief, Ramadan globally.
It is indeed. Ramadan marks in the Islamic Relief calendar, sort of the height of, if you look at it from a fundraising perspective, the height of our fundraising activities. And this is mainly because the Muslim community in the month of Ramadan tend to be very generous. So from an Islamic Relief South Africa perspective, whether it is locally and or internationally, we see as one of our core responsibilities to convey the message of the poor and the needy. And we believe that, alhamdulillah, that the money will come, that the hidayah to give will come from people, but we believe that first and foremost our manner is to share the message. So during the month of Ramadan, we've engaged in several campaigns. One, for example, is our local campaign, and that is one to raise awareness about the issues that we face in South Africa, but then actually to do something about it. So in the month of Ramadan, we do have programs that we engage in, but then there are also issues within Africa. So for example, if you look at the Horn of Africa, they're facing climate change issues like the El Nino. And specifically, if you look at countries like Somalia, Somalia will have two opposites in one country. So one part of Somalia will experience a drought, and the other part of Somalia will experience heavy flooding. So from our perspective, we need to ensure first and foremost that our community is aware of the challenges that is being faced broadly by the Muslim community. But then another campaign that we've been focusing on is our Countries in Conflict campaign. And this is one very important for us, specifically because it is countries that are very close to the hearts of the Muslim communities in South Africa. So whether it is Palestine, whether it is Syria, or whether it is Yemen or Afghanistan or South Sudan, all of these are very, countries that South Africans are very passionate about. So to reiterate, it is about conveying that message, and conveying that message with as much sincerity and honesty as possible. And we do this results, or this leads up to our fundraising activities.
And the fundraising activities, obviously the monies and the funds that are raised are used in different places at different times of the year, but most importantly to make sure that people have relief and that there's development taking place in the impoverished areas.
Exactly. So if you look at its Islamic relief strategy worldwide, we have three key focus areas. One is protecting life and dignity, and this speaks specifically to responding to emergencies. If we think of an emergency situation, people are injured, people don't have food, their houses are destroyed, and the reality is that we want to restore dignity back to them. So in the month of Ramadan, it is about being able to collect those funds so that throughout the year we're able to, when there is a disaster, whether it's man-made or natural, that we're able to respond to it. The second area that we focus on is empowering communities, and this takes different forms. This is the long-term project that we engage within a community. So for example, if you bring it back home into South Africa, we have a center in Johannesburg, in Enedale, called Osizweni, and this center really is a safe haven to the community, in Enedale. It provides them with services that otherwise they would not be able to receive. It takes a child literally from cradle to career, so that there's an exit point, so that there is a support structure. So from our perspective, those two elements are, whether it is protecting life and dignity, which is to respond to an emergency, or whether it is empowering communities, are core to our functions in Ramadan, but also throughout the year. So our fundraising activities is really to ensure that throughout the year we're able to respond, but we're also able to help communities rebuild after a disaster. So if we look at Palestine, we don't see currently a very heavy aggression in Gaza, but the reality is that we need to engage in projects to rebuild Gaza, to rebuild the West Bank, and that is very critical for us. That that even when we communicate to the Muslim community, that we shouldn't only respond in times of deep need, but we should also look at what is the lasting effects that this has on the community, whether it is in Gaza or in the West Bank or even in Syria.
Fazlan Fransman, the HOD for Comms and Fundraising, is still with us in the studio. What are you hoping to achieve with the funds that you raise?
So, we just heard, sort of really some of the atrocious things that are happening in Syria, what is happening in Aleppo, what is happening on the borders with Syria, and the aggression that is happening towards innocent civilians, either side of the conflict that is affecting them. So I think from our perspective, first and foremost, is we want to get this out, the humanitarian aspect of what is happening on the ground. Because I do believe that once people know what is happening on the ground, that as a collective Muslim community in South Africa, we'll be able to respond and say, you know what, like we did with Palestine several times, we will say, you know, we are not going to stand for injustices, for the fact that people are dying, for the fact that there's urgent aid needed on the ground right now as we speak, that there are people that are hungry, there are people that are injured, there are people without shelter. So for us is to be able to say, yes, we're going to convey the message. But through the pledge, we really want people to be able to engage with us, to be engaged with us in a manner that they can look to themselves and say, you know what, I can be part of the solution. And I think that's the beauty of this pledge, is that people actually have a opportunity to be part of the solution. We see news reports, we see things on our social media, and sometimes we feel completely helpless to be able to do something about it. But I think a pledge line that is entirely dedicated to countries in conflict, where we know, for example, that the immediate emergency need for people, I think this gives people the space to be able to say, whether it is my 10 Rand or my 10,000 Rand, that I'm going to be part of that solution. And alhamdulillah, that is what we're looking to achieve with this pledge.
Why should your average man in the street be contributing? We do know that the blessings of doing anything good over the last uneven days or the last 10 uneven nights of Ramadan is enormous. The night of Al-Qadr is in there somewhere. So doing good on one of those nights is also something that could gain you a lot of reward for the akhirah. But why should the layman, why should my friend and your friend, why should they be contributing their money, their zakah, their lillah towards Islamic Relief?
I think it's very important, it's twofold. Firstly, we're Muslims and we're here paving our path to the akhirah. And I think to be able to help people in need, but then to be able to help them in a time that is absolutely, where they're in a position of need, but also in a time that is Ramadan, in a very Mubarak time, on an odd night in the last 10 days, I think that poses an individual the opportunity to build for themselves, an akhirah in Jannah. And I think when people are posed with that idea, that this is not just about this life, that it is about the akhirah, I think that is one motivation. But I think the other motivation is that yes, we are also humans and we're part of this dunya, and we want to, and this is also one of our tests. As Islamic Relief, our test is to ensure that we convey the message sufficiently, and that is our test. And then secondly, when we do receive the funds, to be able to roll out those funds in a manner that treats people with dignity and respect. But the responsibility or the test on the viewer is how am I going to part with my wealth to be able to help my brothers and sisters, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim. So I think the rewards for doing good is in this world and in the next world. For one, in this world we get to help people, we get to save lives, but then over and above that, this is the month of Ramadan, it is the last 10 days, and the rewards is tenfold, for people to do good. So we do encourage everybody to tune in on the 27th night of Ramadan, to look into their hearts as they supplicate on that odd night, and to ask, what is it that they can do to be part of the solution. And I think if we come together as we've done in the past, and South Africa has a history of coming together, in support of causes, whether it was the Palestinian cause or any other cause, I think this is another opportunity for us to come together and do that as well.
Quite a bit of work for Islamic Relief to do, but the work and the responsibility is in the hands of you and I as a pledge opportunity arises on the 2nd of July, the 27th night of Ramadan. Fazlan Fransman, HOD for Comms and Fundraising, shukran for joining us in the studio. You've been watching a special edition of Community Showcase right here on ITV, and we're talking about the Islamic Relief South Africa pledge that will be coming up on the 2nd of July. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and fi amanillah.
لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك، الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك، هدي وارتاح تابر واطمح من حقك، بس بلاش العين. لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك، الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك، هدي وارتاح تابر واطمح من حقك، بس